Hello and welcome once again to the Christchurch Ilkley YouTube channel. Our reflection today is on the Gospel of Matthew chapter 25 verses 30 to 46, entitled The Sheep and the Goats. I'm Philip Gibson, a Methodist local preacher based in Ilkley. There are times for us all, I'm sure, when we fail to see the wood for the trees. An expression used of someone who is too involved in the details of a problem to look at the situation as a whole. There are many examples. It can happen in sport when a cricketer's technique, for example, is given so much coaching that they lose the natural ability to play the game well. In business, if the supervisor starts to do some of the work himself or herself when it's not their job, then they can easily take their eye off the focus of the business and its purpose. Sometimes earnest study of the Bible can get in the way, so that there is a danger we miss something simple that contains a great blessing. Our gospel reading this morning may well be a case in point, as it majors on the story of sheep and goats. The meaning of the story is a hotly debated one. The hungry and thirsty referred to by Jesus here have been variously identified. They are in essence the poor and the oppressed. But who really are the sheep and the goats? Are they flocks, that is nations, or are they individuals? After all, the nations are but a gathering of the people. Is this the final judgment, as the Good News Bible heading suggests, or is it ongoing guidance, or is it both? Jesus regularly used parables, some of which left the listeners baffled. However, this parable is crystal clear. God will judge us in accordance with our reaction to human need. His judgment does not depend upon the knowledge we have amassed, on the fame we have acquired, or indeed the fortune we've gained, but on the help we have given. The present state of our country and that of the rest of the world simply underlines the needs which many people have. We can give a hungry person a meal. We can give a thirsty person a drink. Maybe we will find welcoming a stranger or visiting a prisoner difficult in COVID times, but we can phone and use the internet to cheer the sick and the lonely. As Christmas approaches, in addition to the traditional festive cards, there will be many laudable charities whose letters or emails arrive seeking financial help to undertake tasks effectively on our behalf. It's not a question of giving thousands of pounds, unless you can, but more realistically making a contribution both financially and through prayer, doing our bit. In the parable, those who've helped found giving to be natural and the action of a loving heart. They could not stop themselves, whereas those who failed to offer help offered excuses. If we had known it was you, Jesus, we would gladly have helped, they said, but we thought it was only some common person who was not worth helping. It remains true that there are those who will help if there's something in it for them. Praise and thanks or publicity, perhaps. But help like that is not generosity. The help of which God approves is that given freely, simply for the sake of helping. As God's family, the help we give is given to Jesus, and that withheld is withheld from him. God is Father of all, and the way we delight the heart of God is to help his children, our neighbours. So, as Christmas approaches in whatever form this year, however we feel, may we hearken to the guidance of Matthew's Gospel, where in chapter 21, Jesus asks what his listeners thought then, and indeed we think today, of the story of two sons. How often, when challenged to do something, Do we react like the first son who, when asked to work in the vineyard, says no, but then changes his mind and does? The second son does the exact opposite and says he will, and then he doesn't. The difference between a sheep and a goat, perhaps. At first sight, the contrast seems to be between those who helped the needy and those who did not. But chances are we do not wholly identify with one group or the other. A more fruitful contrast to consider is in our reaction to the story. Does it leave us feeling guilty or feeling encouraged? There is nothing new in telling us we should attend to the poor and distressed, but we can react to that command either in guilt at all we have failed to do, or with joy that even the least we do is of significance in God's kingdom. There is so much need and suffering in our world that it's easy to feel overwhelmed and guilty. Guilt can paralyze us into doing nothing until we say with the goats, "But Lord, if we'd realized it was you, we would have done something." The good news of the parable is that every good act we do, however small it may seem, is a significant act in the eyes of God, as precious as if it were done for Christ himself. Very little chance of a pantomime this year, but once upon a time, theatregoers leaving after one performance were met by two people collecting for crisis at Christmas. One man, throwing a coin into the bucket, remarked angrily, "That's it. I don't want anyone else asking me to give to charity." It was clear he was giving out of a sense of guilt, but it gave him no pleasure. If only someone could have shared with him something of the joy of the sheep who discovered that their small acts of kindness had ministered to Christ himself. The difficulty of knowing how to weigh good deeds against bad directs us to a vital point. In the end, our righteousness does not depend on our good deeds, but on Christ. The poor certainly need our help, but it is by the grace of God that we are saved. So let us take heed of what Jesus says, particularly through the difficult times leading to Christmas and beyond. May Jesus say of us, "When I was thirsty, you gave me a drink. When I was hungry, you fed me. I was homeless and you gave me a room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to me." God, you come in disguises, in a friend asking for a chat, in a person asking for help, in calls for assistance. May we take time to hear you, knowing that when we respond to one person, we are responding to you, and you always respond to us. Amen.